Okay, I'm going to go through how to do the chlorine, both free and combined chlorine tests, and a pH test using a comparator rather than a photometer. So what I've got here is a comparator, two colour wheels that you'll need, one for pH, one for chlorine. You can tell which is which by the colour. The phenol red or the pH wheel will be the colours will be more red, whereas the DPD for the free and combined chlorine will be more pink. But it's got on the back you'll see chlorine and phenol red. Not sure if you can see. And then you'll be able to tell as well by the colours. The colour wheel that I've got here goes from 6.8 through to 8.4 range. So that's obviously, just by those numbers that's going to be for pH. The chlorine one goes 0.5 through to 6. So you can tell which one is which. So comparator, colour wheels, DPD and phenol red tablets, test tubes, crusher, sample of water, and what we'll do first is get a blank. In a similar way to photometers, there's got to be something to compare the sample against once you've got the reagents in there. So grab 10 ml of sample water from your pool, top it up to 10 ml on the test tube, following all the same types of good practice that you follow with the photometer, in that there's a meniscus. The meniscus should be on the 10 ml, let's get that into 10 ml marker as you're looking at it at eye level. Make sure everything is clean as well. Rinse out your test tubes with the sample, with the water that you're going to be sampling, and yeah, make sure everything's clean, make sure everything's dry. And what you do is that test tube goes in the sort of left hand side of the photometer. There's a couple of sort of things, holders for you to put the tubes into, so have that on the left hand side. Meanwhile, I'll just put a cap on that as well. In the other test tube, rinse out a sample of water. Rinse out a test tube with a sample of water. I'll rinse it out again. Just leave a little bit in the bottom so that you can do the two-stage test. So what I mean by that is, if you have can you see it going pink? That's a DPD1 tablet that I've just put in there. DPD1, that's for free chlorine. You can see it going pink. And the idea is to keep your eye on the colour as you top it up. See it stay in pink. If it was to go clear at this point, that's bleaching out, and I talk about that in another video in more depth, so I won't go on about that too much in this video. But you always start out with a few drops of water, top it up to 10. If it didn't go pink at all, even with just a few drops of water, you've got no chlorine, or you've got a dud tablet. If you top it up to 10 and it went pink, but you see it going clear, then you've possibly got an over chlorinated sample of water. Crush the tablet. You might want to use a tabletop for it. These days, these tubes are plastic. They used to be glass and used to end up breaking them, but these days they're plastic. Make sure the tablet fully fully disintegrates so that you've got no tablet fragments left over. Might need to be quite determined because of the way that these test tubes are designed. There's a little dimple in the bottom that makes it difficult to crush the tablet, but make sure the tablet is completely crushed and has fully reacted. Then you'll see it's gone a certain pink colour. Put a cap on that. Now you put that in the other side, so you've got the blank sample on the left, the sort of live sample if you like on the right. Get the appropriate colour wheel, which the test that we're doing is on chlorine, so you need the chlorine colour wheel, and put it in. And what you need is a source of white light, which is the most obvious source of white light is the sun. So I'm going to just open this, or you can use a fluorescent tube. They also produce white light, but I've got quite a good source of sunlight here. I'm going to have to get this at a certain angle. So you hold it up and hopefully you might be able to see that as you rotate, can you see the two apertures there? And as you rotate the wheel, see that one there is the weakest on the colour wheel. I think that's 0.5. That's 1. 1.5. Yeah. 2. And I think maybe 2 is the match. What you're basically trying to do is get that match. Maybe 2.5. Definitely not a 3. And it goes through the range. That's the idea. And what you'll see here is the number corresponding to what the chlorine level is. Sorry if my face got a bit close there. So that's the idea. So the best match that I can see here, 2.5. I'm pretty sure about that. So that would be the free chlorine, 2.5. And as you can see with the comparator, there's more of a judgment involved because you are using your own eyesight to make the comparison between the sample colour of the sample and the colour in the colour wheel, which is potentially problematic for people that have issues with colour blindness. Now apparently 10% of men statistically have got issues with colour blindness, so that could be a factor that determines whether you go with a comparator or whether you go with a photometer, because with photometers you're not relying on anyone's perception of colour here. They're basically the machine, the device does it. What you definitely should not be doing though, if you're operating a commercial swimming pool, is using either a water tester, which is just one block of clear plastic with all the colours printed on there, or a test strip of any sort. They're too inaccurate and they're only really geared towards domestic pools rather than commercial pools. So it's either a comparator or it's a photometer if it's a commercial pool, which is what we're predominantly at Stockwell Safety more geared towards providing courses about. So that's free chlorine. In terms of doing the total chlorine, so that you can work out the combined chlorine, what you use for this one is a DPD3 tablet. You put that in the same sample that you've got the DPD1 already in. Don't touch the tablet with your fingers, and that goes for all these tests. Don't touch the tablet with your fingers because you'll taint you'll affect the result. So 2 minutes for the DPD3 tablet. While we're waiting for that 2-minute reaction time, I'll put that over there, we can get on with the phenol red tablet test to tell us what the pH is. So what I'll do is rinse out another test tube, and with the pH test, you're not worried about the bleaching out thing. That is only really to do with chlorine. So 10 ml of water, phenol red tablet into the sample, crush it up with the crushing rod. Make sure that the tablet fully disintegrates. You can potentially sort of invert the test tube to try and encourage the tablet to disintegrate, but don't go shaking the test tube vigorously, because you'll just create loads of air bubbles that will get in the way of you being able to tell what the colour match is. So again, that goes into the available slot. Change the colour wheel and do the same again with the holding it up to a source of white light and observing the colour match. I'll try and get it at an angle so that you can hopefully see. Can you see that? And it's exactly the same process. Just keep rotating until you get a colour match. Personally, I think it's that one, which is 7.4, which would be within range if it was a pool sample. Meanwhile, it's been 2 minutes now on the total chlorine, so we can have another look at the, shouldn't have put that away, should I? Open that up and bring you over here. So let's, can you see now? Same process. It's the same color wheel as we did with the DPD one, and the match that I get there is 2.5, so that's 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. To my eyes, that's the match. Same as the free chlorine was, which is it is what I expected, to be honest with you, because believe it or not, I haven't actually got a real swimming pool at my premises here, so I prepare a water sample with bleach, so there would be no combined chlorine in a water sample that has been prepared that way, because there won't be any ammonia in there, or urine or sweat or anything like that, because it's just ordinary tap water. But in a swimming pool, obviously, there is going to be bathers using it, so they're going to be introducing urine, sweat, etc., which are precursors to ammonia, which then go on to combine with chlorine and produce combined chlorine. I'm not going to go too in depth on that right here and now, because there's another section of the course that goes into detail on what combined chlorine is. But what you would usually expect to find is that your total chlorine test with the DPD3 would be higher than the test that you did with the DPD1 for the free chlorine. It might be the same if it's the first test of the day and you've got secondary disinfection, like for example ultraviolet. You wouldn't expect there to be any combined chlorine in that circumstance. So yeah, you'll probably find that the DPD3 comes in at the same colour as the DPD1. But as the day gets busier, or if you haven't got secondary disinfection, then you might find, or probably usually will find, that the DPD3 tablet is going to be higher than the DPD1 tablet. What would be incorrect is if the DPD3 tablet came in lower than the DPD1. That wouldn't make sense, because essentially when you're doing a DPD3 test, you're getting a total. So you can't have the total being less than a component of that total. So something's gone awry if you ever find that your free chlorine result with your DPD1 tablet is coming in at more than the total. A common reason for that is that the tablet hadn't yet fully disintegrated, and especially in a photometer, the photometer will be hitting the tablet fragments that are still there, and it might be reading darker than what it actually is. Possibly the same with a comparator, although maybe your eyes wouldn't be that sensitive to it. Not sure. But anyway, there you go. There's how to do the comparator test, the free chlorine, the total chlorine, and the phenol red tests on a comparator. What I will say is do make sure that when you're using any particular test equipment, that you're using everything from the same manufacturer. So if it's a Palin test comparator, then use Palin test tablets, and furthermore use Palin test tablets that are for a comparator, because you can get test tablets that are geared towards photometers, and you can get test tablets that are geared towards comparators, and they're different. So make sure that you're not mixing you're not mixing together different test tablets in the same at the same sort of testing station, which we've seen quite commonly. There's a mishmash of Lovibond and Palin test, and DPD tablets for comparators and DPD tablets for photometers, and it's not good. It doesn't. It is going to affect the results that you get. So make sure that everything is from the same manufacturer, and you're using the appropriate test tablets for the particular device you're using for your testing purposes.